All righty. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. Happy you're all here. Hopefully you're on our YouTube channel viewing live, or maybe you're viewing after the fact. Either way, just a reminder, we have a ton of great content out here on our YouTube channel, not just Incorta stuff, but analytics of all types. So planning applications, Gen AI, best practices, big three cloud providers and their stacks, RPA, data science, just to name a few. So make sure you take a deep dive into our YouTube channel. It really is chock full of good content, but of course, I'm biased. Hi, I'm Craig Colangelo. I'm a senior solutions architect with PMsquare. Been doing this for a couple of years. With me today is Randy Dawson. He's a senior data guy, as he likes to be called, at PMsquare. He's not one to put on airs. And one of our fabulously talented solution architects, Michael Ross, is joining us today too to kind of demo some of the content that we created for this new data app. It looks like we were. Do we have anybody from Incorta on? Probably not. No worries. So we created this interesting little data app. Let me just set the table here a little bit, and then I'll let you guys get into it. We created this Incorta data app that we wanted to share. It's really kind of like, you can think of it like a head start or a blueprint sort of an app that connects to Harvest, Harvest is a pretty common app for time tracking and expense reporting and a few other things too, invoicing, I think, and stuff like that. But we created a mechanism to basically attach our Incorta to Harvest via API, translate the schema, because there's always a bunch of nuance and interesting things in each vendor's APIs. Pull in all the right data, and it kind of gives you a solid business schema and some presentation components right off the bat in Incorta. This is partly born out of necessity. Like I said, we use it Harvest internally, but also because we believe that it'll add value to other Incorta practices who use Harvest, or maybe even connect people that connect to other data sources via API and kind of want to look at what we did as an example. But obviously, if you're a Harvest data consumer who uses Incorta, this is going to be most applicable for you and right up your alley. So should be a short session, 30 minutes or so. But we'll try to wrap a little bit early. Oh, John, hey, good to see you. So with us today is John Jensen. He's with Incorta. John, would you mind telling us a little bit about what you do with Incorta and about the Incorta Marketplace?
Yeah, so I'm one of the go-to-market leaders. I work with Joe Cooper, who runs our overall alliances team. Joe and I both aren't your normal run-of-the-mill alliances guys. We're both VPs of sales by trade. So the way we look at working with our partners is we need to understand how sales leaders think, not just kind of set up lunches and webinars and sing Kumbaya. We want to actually get in people's heads and work closely with them. And the marketplace, just like anyone else's marketplace, Incorta is a marketplace to pull down apps and leverage some pretty cool stuff. And it sounds like you guys have built something that fits that bill, pretty cool and pretty usable. So of course, to get to the marketplace, you have to be in Incorta. You can't go get to it from our website, but powerful place. And it sounds like you guys have created a powerful little plugin for it, an app, if you will.
Yeah. Excited to show it today, John. Thanks for setting the table there. So, Michael, do you know, are we actually out on the Incorta Marketplace yet? Is there an easy way for Incorta users to get there?
Yeah, not quite yet. Very soon. We're kind of in the staging portion, but very soon we should be in the production.
Yeah, obviously you're working with our technical team, so those guys all actually make that happen. Joe and I don't touch that at all. They don't let us near that with a 10-foot pole.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's always a process. We do this for lots of different vendors, and it's always interesting to see how quickly it takes and how vetted it is. But Incorta does a great job of vetting these apps to make sure they do exactly what they say they're going to do. So we're not yet in the Incorta marketplace, but I'm assuming that if somebody were to reach out to us at contact at PMsquare, I'm assuming that's probably the best place to do it. We'd be able to help them out immediately if they needed, right?
Yep, that's right. We've got all the content packaged up, and if somebody contacts us, we can kind of demo it for you.
Cool. And conversely, are we on the Harvest Marketplace, or do we have plans to deploy this on the Harvest Marketplace as well?
Maybe in the future, Harvest, not at the moment.
Yeah. Sorry for interrupting you there, Michael. Yeah, they don't call it a marketplace at the Harvest site, but similar concept. And we're starting the ball rolling there, but not quite there yet.
Awesome. Yeah, it'd be great to get our name and Incorta's name on that as well. So fantastic. Cool. Well, without further ado here, Michael, if you want to pop in and maybe share your screen and show us a little bit about what this app is. I tried to set the table as best I could, but I'm sure I missed a ton of stuff. Take it away and show us what you got.
Sure. Yeah, let me go ahead and share the screen here. All right. So I'll kind of start at the schema level of Incorta, and I'm assuming some people haven't quite heard about Incorta, so I'll go a little bit over the basics there. The schema portion of Incorta is kind of where all the data lands. You can think of a schema in Incorta similar to a schema in a database. It's just kind of a grouping of similar tables. So in this case, we've got all of our harvest-related tables here. You can see we've written all the code for these particular tables in Spark Python. So we're making our calls out to the Harvest API to extract the data. So you can see the names here are very close to the names that are referenced within the Harvest API. So we're kind of bringing back the dimensions and kind of transaction tables as we get exposure to them through the Harvest API. We've gone ahead and kind of made the joins between these tables as they exist from the API. So I can bring up the diagram here and show you just kind of what that looks like. If you see the time entries here is kind of like a transaction table joining out to some of the other dimension tables like projects or project task assignments. Then we've got the expenses over here, joins out to a few other tables as well, but we've kind of all defined all that within the scope of this kind of first iteration of the data app, focusing on the kind of expenses and time entry side of Incorta, of Harvest. So that's kind of the
Real quick,
Yep.
Michael, what did you think of the Harvest API? It's always interesting to me to see, different APIs have different levels of documentation, and some make it easy, some make it hard. Some give you like non-standard JSON back, for your return packets. What did you think about the Harvest API? Was it easy to work with or difficult?
Yeah, it was pretty easy to work with. They got decent documentation. They kind of have some Postman scripts out there that kind of help speed things up a little bit. So it was fairly easy overall to get the connection working here in Incorta and just make some tweaks to kind of get the data, like you mentioned about the JSON format, kind of refiguring that to land in a more like traditional column-based database. So just a little bit of tweaking there, but pretty straightforward to get access to that data.
Gotcha. All right, makes a lot of sense. And would you agree with the way that I described it? It is kind of like a head start, kind of like a blueprint.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good way to frame it. We've kind of got all these related endpoints that we're accessing to kind of give you a little bit more information about the time entry and expense data that's out there. So it'll help you get started there, and we'll go over a little bit more of some of the extra content on top of just this kind of schema layer here in a little bit.
Awesome. Yeah, take it away.
Yep. Yeah, so like I said, this is kind of the area where the data lands. So at this point, you kind of have an option. The data is in the Incorta platform at this point. So you can use Incorta for visualizations on top of it, or if you've made kind of investments in other third-party visualization tools like a Power BI or Tableau, or even other kind of data pipeline type tools, pretty much anything that has a PostgreSQL connector will be able to connect up into Incorta and get access to this data. So kind of depends on how you want to end up visualizing this data, whether you do it within the Incorta platform. There's certainly the capabilities there. We've built out some dashboards to get you started on that path. But if you've made investments in other areas, you can take advantage of that as well. Kind of at this point, you can see a little bit about the tables that we've got here. If we just kind of look at the time entries, we can see there's 59 columns in here. One of the things I'll touch on next is the kind of concept of business schemas and how they kind of make it a little bit easier for business users to interact with the data. 59 columns, maybe you don't necessarily want all of your business users to be looking at all 59 columns. Maybe it's something that the power users can use, but you might want to trim that down a little bit for the kind of traditional business users that might be creating their reports. So we've also kind of done some work around that in the business schema area up here. So I'll go up to the business schema tab here. Scroll down a little bit, and we've got two business schemas created here for the harvest data. We've got harvest expenses and harvest time. I'll click into harvest time and focus on that one here today. But what you can basically see is we've got kind of the transactions information here within this time entries view. And you can see we've got 19 columns here. So we've kind of handpicked some of the most important columns from that table. So not exposing all 59 columns, but a certain subset of them. And then you can see some of the other kind of dimensional views that join out to that transaction data. So kind of a little bit simplified model, easy for users to take this and drag and drop into the kind of report building interface that we'll look at here in a second. But that's kind of the core value of the business schema, is kind of abstracting away some of that complexity or maybe just massive amounts of columns in some of the tables that you might not want to expose to everybody. So that's the business schema. We'll move on now to the content tab, which is where our dashboards live. So we've got this harvest folder here, and we've created 3 different dashboards kind of for this version 1.0 of the harvest data app. So we've got harvest expenses, harvest time, pretty self-explanatory. Those are the expense level detail and the time details. And then we created a project summary dashboard that kind of combines data from both of those 2 areas at a project level to give a little bit more interactive view of things and be able to drill into certain project details that way. But today I'm going to focus on the harvest time dashboard. And so you can see here, got some summary insights here up at the top of the page: hours by client and project, hours by task, billable and non-billable hours, kind of a time trend of hours by the week start date. I'll get down into a pivot table with kind of task level information and hours by day here. But kind of the one thing I want to focus on a little bit more is the details here. So like I mentioned, we had 59 columns in there that were coming through. I've brought all of those in along with several others for some of the other different tables we have here. But basically, kind of one of the core concepts of Incorta is bringing the data into Incorta in the same shape as it exists in the source systems. So like we're taking everything that Harvest will give us through the API, and we don't have to kind of do any of the like dimensional modeling to make a star scheme or anything like that. We're kind of just reporting exactly off the same structure as it exists in the source system. So that gives us the ability to have kind of the full granularity of data access to us, and we don't like kind of compromise on any of the aggregations or anything like that that might cause us to lose access to some column. So we've got access to everything here. And if I'm just kind of scrolling through here, I can go over and really just pick any column I want here. If I'm looking at something like maybe I just want to see the projects that are budgeted by person, I can just click on that value. And then instantly my dashboard is re-rendered. We're now filtered on just by the person budget by types. And I can go back up and look at my summarized insights, and they've all re-rendered based on that filter. So that's just kind of one of the main benefits of Incorta, just bringing the data in at its lowest level of detail, not having to spend the time to do the dimensional modeling into kind of a star schema approach, and just making it available at full fidelity, kind of like almost a digital twin of the source system. But
I love that.
Still have
I love that. Less time arguing over numbers, right? Because if you're starting at the atomic level and using the same schema as the operational system, what's there to argue about?
Yep, you have the full fidelity of the data there. Like it's fairly common to put kind of like that details insight at the bottom of a dashboard, just to kind of give the people that I know a lot of people like to export to Excel, and that kind of table there at the bottom lends itself to exporting. But we still like to keep people in the Incorta platform so they can have that kind of interactive drilling.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Kind of full level of detail.
Yeah, and thanks for using sample data, because I'm afraid I'd probably look bad if we used our real-time accounting system.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the quick demo of what we've got here. We could go into more. If somebody reaches out to us, we can certainly go into a deeper dive on what we've got here. But I'll just quickly bring up our staging instance. Like I said, we not quite out on the production marketplace yet, but we've got a staging instance here, and you can kind of see there's a little entry here for the harvest time and expense. And we can click on that card, and just gives you a little bit more data or information about what we've developed here and how to contact us. But that should be coming available to the production Incorta cloud clusters very soon. But yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I didn't quite get that. So you do access the marketplace from within your Incorta instance. It's not out there on the website as some external entity, it sounds like.
Correct. Yep, up here on the top bar, assuming you have the kind of security privileges to see the tab. It'll be up here at the top in the marketplace, and then you'll see our entry for the harvest data app in there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I get the value prop here, Michael. That's it's fantastic. I mean, APIs often vary in, degrees of difficulty, and there's a lot of different ways to kind of skin this cat. Randy, from a practice, management sort of a perspective, why did we decide to use Incorta here, right? There's being an analytics consultancy, we can solve this problem 1,000 different ways, right? What value adds does Incorta kind of bring to this particular solution?
Well, so Michael showed us the first one, right? And I don't want to speak for him or diminish the work he did on this, but the start to finish, from the time we said, hey, we'd like to build Incorta reports to show us the harvest data, to the time we had version 1 ready, was really quick. And Michael was able to go out there and hit that REST API, bring data in, move things. So there's a real advantage to being able to move quickly to get source data, do that digital twin he was talking about, into an environment that I don't know if we still use the initials, right, for the Unified Data Access Platform, UDAP, but it's an all-in-one solution, right? So there's a kind of first level value that Incorta brings to the table. The next level, though, is I think where things get really, really good, and really there's a ton of potential, which is that Incorta is not limited to a single source. And we saw it a little bit during the demo, right? Michael was walking through the different schemas that are available and the different applications that are available. So we could take this information that we're pulling in from Harvest and report on it, which is great. But now we also have the ability to combine that with other things, right? So if we're doing our invoicing, for instance, through Harvest, and we want to tie that in to our accounts receivable in a different ERP, we'll be able to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just the ability to intermingle, connect, and report across source systems adds a ton of value to this, right? Excuse me. And all the stuff you would expect from any kind of enterprise reporting. So we're using sample data. Everybody sees every sample employee, but you can imagine easily there are cases where I want to do time and hours and invoicing, all this kind of information for my area of the company, but I'm not allowed to see the other area.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can apply the security in there too, bring it all in, do that digital twin, and parse it out as it's applicable. Right. So there's, like I said, that base level of value of being able to just see this nice visualization, and we just add and add on top of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. Something else that I really find appealing about Incorta is, you're not paying, for example, on the presentation side, on the reporting side, you're not paying by individual seats, right? So if you've got a properly sized environment, you have 1,000 different users that want to come in and look at this stuff after you've already done the heavy lifting of, connecting to the API, pulling the data, putting it in the presentation layer in a kind of a semantic model sort of a space. Fantastic. You don't have to pay for end user license, sort of scenarios where everybody has to be individually named and able to access the environment that way.
I think make another point on that too. In the world of Databricks, Snowflake, all these other, hyperscalers and cloud warehouses, there's one little dirty elephant in the room that everyone's kind of getting tired of, and that's the fact there's lots of hidden cost, and it's not linear, it's non-linear, it's actually parabolic, and it happens to you when you least expect it. And with the pricing model in Incorta, everything is set. You know exactly what your charges are going to be.
And John, that's based on like t-shirt sizing sort of stuff, right?
T-shirt sizes, exactly.
Okay.
So we're charging people for how much memory and storage are you using? We're not charging them for compute. And whether that's on premise or in the cloud, we're not charging you for compute. And that's why no one ever gets this crazy bill they didn't expect when they work with Incorta. And it's usually also cents on the dollar compared to what they're used to spending on similar approaches. It's still only give them aggregated data. This is the big dirty secret as well. Elephant number 2 in the room is that those organizations that are working with a Snowflake, a Databricks, putting Tableau, Power BI, things like this on top of it, most of them are living in a land of aggregated data, summarized data, business views, and cubes, which are all outgrowths of really well-intentioned IT teams that know from experience they need to protect the users from themselves and give them these constructs so that the data will perform and be understandable. All of you that are working with Incorta today already know that we blow that out of the water by making it unnecessary to do an extensive amount of modeling and ETL work, because you have that direct mapping capability. And now with the generative AI coming, everyone that's listening, I think this is a really important point. I sat with some planning folks from Guyana plan experts this morning from other SI, and I said, don't you think it's a little incongruent that people are talking about generative AI, which needs lots of detailed data, but most people's data and analytics and reporting environments are geared to give only aggregates and snapshots of data, and to go get to detail, it's a whole other process. And then Incorta, you could still kill both those birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Your reporting,
Yeah,
analytics, and generative AI initiative.
That's nice. That makes a whole lot of sense to me. Randy, we've got a few different offerings, right, to kind of help people manage services style, kind of take care of their Incorta environments, right? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's interesting what John, you were just talking about. Another benefit is on the upside or the top side, right? It's especially if we use Incorta Cloud, it's almost infinitely scalable. So we're not worried about topping out or running out of room or running out of resources. But on the flip side of that, the barrier to entry to this is very, very low. It's if you wanted to get set up now, I kind of assume based on the live stream that we're doing that people watching this are Incorta users already, right? And then in order to try out our Harvest app, they can just ask us to help implement that, and we'll get them done. And we're done with it. It's very quick and easy. But if there are people that are interested in Harvest and Incorta that aren't Incorta users, we've got the ability now with a partnership with Incorta to do literally no cost demo of this and actually set them up in their own environment. There are some size limitations and whatnot that go along with that, but to do a proof of value and get them up and running really quickly into an environment that they would be able to administer if they chose to, or come back to PMsquare and say, look, I want this data and this information, and I just don't have time or people to put it out there for me. You take care of it, right? So we'll run the gamut. We'll let you loose on the biggest system there is in Incorta, and you got take on everything. Or you could start small and just say, PMsquare, take care of this, and we've got an offering for that too. Just really great flexibility in how you can get started. And circling back again to something John just said, really grow with Incorta. So this whole Gen AI and machine learning stuff is kind of nascent right now. Big companies are putting it into place. Smaller companies are reading about it. But you can start small and just say report and analyze on this data. And then when you're ready, no upcharge, no modules to buy, nothing like that. You've got the capability to use the notebooks like Michael was showing, right? Or set yourself up for the Gen AI or do the data studio work that Incorta includes in its offering. So it's a ton of upside and a ton of scalability to this, but really easy entry and flexible entry, right? So anything from we just want to check it out to have PMsquare do a guided kind of delivery and roadmap.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, everything you want to do in the space of, analytics, data engineering, Gen AI, decision, modeling, or data science. It all starts with data, right? So, Incorta is that solid database at the atomic level. I absolutely get that.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you there, but the other very nice piece of this is you don't have to say, well, we like Incorta, but we have X, right? Incorta can sit in there and augment everything else you have. It doesn't have to be a rip out and replace, right? So if you want to use Incorta as a data hub to bring 4 or 5 different data sources together and then push that data out via whatever it is, right? Tableau or Power BI or Cognos or these other reporting tools, or you want to push it into a different storage area. You want to push it into S3 bucket on AWS. You could do that, right? There's a lot of different ways that Incorta can either be the system that you want it to be, or can augment that system, or be an important cog in that system. So it's a very flexible tool in that way.
Yeah, no lock-in. I love it. John, anything you want to mention before we get out of here about what's going on in the world of Incorta? Obviously, Gen AI is a hot topic, right? Data Studio is a bit new. You want to tell us what's going on?
Yeah, Data Studio is it is new, but I think a lot of people are getting excited to definitely go play with it, play it down. It's with the it's a little bit like an Alteryx type of product in terms of ease and visual, working with data and bringing things in. It's not a heavy product, but I think the point that Randy made was really a good one, which is this environment can be your catch-all, but it also can be a source system to other things like Snowflake and Databricks. And a lot of people have gotten in and I'm probably a little bold to call it a lazy approach, but they've gotten into this approach where they just don't know any better because it's the thing that seems like the best way to do it, throwing all raw data into a raw zone. And then when people need it, going and doing ELT work later. This is where you could actually go hit complicated, brittle old systems like JD Edwards, SAP, Oracle, EBS, NetSuite, get that data in all of its detailed splendor, and then land it in these environments where it actually makes sense to people, not where there's another journey to be taken. And I think everyone on this call that's ever gotten hit with an ad hoc question at 5:45 on a Wednesday night knows exactly what I'm talking about. Boy, is that a big pain in the neck, right?
Detailed splendor indeed. Yeah. And that's where, some of the Head Start apps and Incorta come in really handy when you're talking NetSuite or EBS or what have you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation to join you all.
Of course, John. Yeah, thanks for joining us today. Michael, fantastic job. Looks great. Randy, thank you. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. As always, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like I said, there's a ton of great content out there, not just Incorta specific, but we are a full analytics consultancy, so we got a lot of great content out there. Just to mention, for if there's any healthcare professionals or health insurance professionals on the line right now, we're going to be at HIMSS next month in Orlando. So come by and say hi. We've got this really cool new healthcare industry aligned Gen AI solution called Medicine 3.0, Sim AI. And it basically simulates like realistic scenarios to provide outcomes and stuff and recommendations for healthcare providers. So things like, chatbots for doctors, personalized patient situations, even like drug efficacy and safety. So if you're a drug manufacturer, we're using, some pretty heavy hitting Gen AI to basically accommodate all that. And we've got a solution in place already. But we're going to demo some of that at HIMSS. So if you're in Orlando next week, make sure to stop by our booth. We'll have a booth there. And then, of course, users can sign up for our newsletter and our event notifications. That's another fantastic way to keep in touch with what we have going on. And as always, keep an eye on our YouTube channel. But again, guys, fantastic work. Love what this avails, and it should, be some easy wins for Harvest and Incorta users alike. Thanks, guys. Take care. Have an awesome day.
Hey, bye.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye-bye.